One second. If there's a delay, maybe this is a good time. Let me know if there's a delay or kind of you can't quite see me or anything like that. Just go ahead and let me know um, if you can, if you're having experiencing any trouble. Okay, one second. Here we go. I think Hilary's here. Let me see. Go live with Hilary. Here we go. And let's see if this is gonna work.
Good morning. Can you
Oh,
hear me?
yes, I can, and it looks lovely behind you. And I'm just happy that we've connected. I think we got through the toughest part of today's conversation already. So now we can just have a good time.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yay! Well, Hillary, thank you so much for accepting this invitation to join us on this Instagram Live. I was just letting people know that this is our inaugural first conversation live with the artist. So I couldn't think of a better person than you to go on this trip and just kind of dive into it. So thank you so much. Just a couple things in terms of where people can tune in if they are not with us now. The video will be available for 24 hours on Instagram TV. And if on my end everything is going well and I'm recording this properly, then it should go up on the Instagram, on the, sorry, excuse me, the Athenaeum's YouTube page. So we'll see.
Fabulous.
Fabulous. But for now, we
Fabulous.
have a couple people here with us. So let's dive in. I know, Hillary, originally you were scheduled to have an exhibition. It's okay. You let me know.
It's all right.
All right. Hillary, initially you were scheduled to have an exhibition with us right around this time in spring. Of course, I think we all know what happened. The
Boy,
COVID
did it.
19. Exactly. The COVID 19 came and changed and rocked our world in many, many ways. So here we are now having this conversation in each other's home. I know I'm in my house. Are you at yours?
I am. I am. Um, I forgot to check my battery before this all started. So that little scrambling,
I'm like, no, it'll be
chalk it
fine.
up to age, honey. Chalk it up to
Yeah,
age.
we'll be fine. We'll be fine. The phone, everything's good. There's bigger worries out there. Hillary, so I thought in lieu of our your exhibition, which of course is not the same as viewing your artwork firsthand, but I thought maybe we can use this
Oh,
opportunity
I
to
got it.
let people know. Let me know when you're.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
Okay,
okay.
got it.
It's okay. Yeah, this is gonna
Did you
happen.
tell?
I have my phone with rubber bands around it, hoping that it doesn't also just take a life of its own. But Hillary, let's go ahead maybe and start with a little bit of your background. I know that perhaps kind of you kind of segue in many ways to be or in some ways to become an artist. I know art has always been part of your life and that of your family, but could you maybe tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming an artist? Were you always interested in art, or did this come kind of at a later stage in your life? Tell us.
Well, I think I've always been attracted to color
Mm-hmm.
and interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
I greatly admired my parents who were patrons of the arts. Um, and because I grew up on a ranch, I wasn't, well, I was a small town. We didn't have big galleries or any of that. My parents were founders of an art center where I grew up, and there
Okay.
were always artists in our house, always.
Where did you grow up?
Yuma, Arizona,
Yuma, Arizona. So you're from
La
the heat,
Jolla.
like La
Oh,
Jolla, but grew up in Yuma, Arizona, and
mhm.
then kind of moved back and forth from Yuma.
No, no. My father was in the service in the war. That gives you my age.
Okay.
And he was
Okay.
stationed about an hour up the coast, and my grandfather was an outpatient at Scripps. So my mother lived here during the war so that she
Hmm.
could take care of her father.
Okay.
And
Well, that's good.
that's how that happened.
The connection.
But I
Okay.
got back here as soon as I could.
I know. I know. I mean, I grew up in Mexicali, so I know about those heat waves in the summer, like 118,
Mm-hmm.
115. So yeah, this the San Diego weather. I mean, it doesn't get any better.
Just the
But
beauty.
yes, to go back, you were saying that you kind of grew up in a household where even though your parents weren't artists, there was definitely this kind of appreciation for art in general.
I can remember my mother taking paint. We had a fireplace in the dining room,
Mm-hmm.
brick,
Mm-hmm.
surrounding the whole thing. She took paint and painted it sort of like Orozco.
Oh, oh wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
She wasn't a painter. She just didn't like the way it was and had no problem changing it.
mhm.
My
Which
father
is,
painted,
oh, he did.
not a lot. They both
Uh-huh.
dabbled. They both dabbled.
Okay. That's very nice. I mean, I feel that I think about where the kind of the environment that you grew up in and the kind of the things that obviously your parents provide makes such an imprint, right, on all of us. Did you decide at a young age, do you tell your parents like, I'm going to become an artist, this is what I want to pursue, or did kind of life
No,
take you in this little zigzag road with a lot of twists and turns prior to
I,
to being an
I've
artist?
always, I've always been very slow to things.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and as a small child, when my parents were entertaining, I would light candles and drip them until I could make
Mm-hmm.
a little animal.
Oh wow,
As soon
with
as
the
I,
wax itself.
yeah, yeah, my my mother sewed a lot of my clothes and wanted me to sew.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately started making what I wanted, not using patterns. That might be a
For
surprise to some people I know.
wow, yes, it is. You,
Yeah.
I've taken one sewing class, and it was a pattern making class, and I loved it. But I was like, wow, there's nothing like going behind the scenes to appreciate the work that goes into
Well,
creating
I'm
something
not,
from scratch.
you're getting the wrong impression here. I had no intention, I had no intention of doing it right. I just wanted the results. I
Mm-hmm.
knew always what I wanted. And so I'd aim for what I wanted and then just fall by the wayside to get there. My
I
mother
love it.
entered me in an art contest in grade school, and I did
Oh,
win that. But
oh, well, okay.
because she helped me, I never thought much about it.
Oh,
So the next run is I taught school with an artist, and I used to listen to his classes, and a lot of the stuff that I use today I got from him, just listening to him talk to children
oh,
because
nice.
I
What
am
was
kind of a child.
Oh, but yes. I mean, in the sense that from what I know, you're always being very curious about,
Yeah.
life in general. And I think that's definitely something that, children have, and some of adults continue to embrace that and nurture that throughout. And it's important to do so. Not always easy, though. We can easily get very jaded. Um, but you were saying, so your parents then, you entered the art, you took this class with, sorry, you were kind of helping out in these classes and you were kind of
I
learning.
just I just was nearby and listened.
Oh,
He
okay.
um, he gave the classes in a space next door to my father's office, so I could hear
Mm-hmm.
what was going on, and it was fascinating. Fascinating.
Aw. And if how or right around what age were you? Were you still pretty young or
Well, no,
teen,
for
adult?
that I was probably in my early teens.
Ah, okay. So yeah,
Yeah,
still
I
at a
think.
fairly impressionable state, age. So you took those you listened, you got, and then what happened? Did you go to college and
Nothing. Yeah. Nothing. I went to college. I went to the University of Arizona, and while I majored in speech,
I think
But
it's
my
on.
uncle was
Mhm.
director of the Tucson Art Gallery. So, and I acted, and he also taught at the university. So I sort of acted as his hostess. And so I was
Mhm.
surrounded by art. But it never occurred to me to do anything other than the
Mhm.
doodles that I always made
Oh.
everywhere. I couldn't pick up a pen without
Mhm.
doodling. Anyway, so when I graduated, I went to work for the director of the art museum at the University of Arizona. And
Mhm.
he said, I think you should take an art class. So he sent me next door and I took my first drawing class, which was which was like handing me the world. I
Oh.
mean, believe it or not, I thought drawing a Coke bottle was about the greatest thing in the world. I
Uh.
loved it.
Well, I
It
wouldn't.
used it created a sense. Oh, go on. It created a sense of peace, serenity that I hadn't I wasn't. I didn't know.
I.
So that
I.
was really cool.
I bet. And I think I'm not an artist myself, but whenever I kind of dabble into, some creative endeavors, I feel like I enjoy that kind of introspective moment so much where you're doing something, but you're still kind of like lost in your thoughts and it's meditative in a way. And then, really kind of getting into that flow. I think that's what I enjoy the most. Even if my creation, for whatever reason is just like, okay, like nothing special,
I've
but that
seen you with
moment.
the children. I've seen you with the children at the art center.
Mhm.
And I would call you an artist because you create an
Oh, you're so
atmosphere.
sweet.
You create an atmosfera that is
Oh,
so good for the
gracias.
children. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
gracias. I appreciate that. I do like working with kids. And it's always fun. It's always fun to kind of have that, like we were saying, right? Being able to have like a positive impact on someone when they're young and kind of guide them towards, an appreciation for the art
Yes.
if they haven't yet. That's always very.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
then, sorry, you took classes. It was like someone was kind of nudging you all along to continue. And then what happened? Then after in college, then you took this class and then you decided to go for it? Or was there another kind of twist and turn? Because
No,
I
no,
know
no, no, no.
there was still like
My
some
fa-
time
my
that
father
happened.
said my father said to me, "You go to college to learn how to support a family. You can't ever depend on having a husband that will do that."
Mm-hmm.
And so when I
Correct.
graduated,
Mm-hmm.
right, I didn't have the ability when I graduated
Mm-hmm.
to support a family.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a fifth year to
Mm-hmm.
become a teacher and got my teaching certificate in California.
Yeah.
I came over here and went to San Diego State for my
Uh-huh.
fifth year.
Oh, very
And
nice. And what did you teach?
sixth grade,
Right, right before the preteens. Were you
they were
able?
they were wonderful. They really
Oh,
were. And sometimes someone will come, even today, and say, oh, Miss Gwen. And
oh,
it's so
how
exciting. Yeah.
special.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, that's very cool. So, and then I guess that if we were to fast forward, I know that you were also, was it like a marriage therapist at some point
Mm-hmm,
too?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I still hold a license, but I don't practice.
Okay.
And then I had a dress store with my mother in Arizona, which put me
Mhm.
in contact constantly with fabrics, textiles. I love to
Mm.
touch everything. So that was like heaven for me. Heaven.
I
And one
bet.
one day a friend said something about taking an art class. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Where do you do that?" And she said, "Over in the alley off of Fay."
Uh-huh. Ah.
And there was a little art studio. One of the women is has become quite well known in the art field.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "I would really like to paint."
Mm-hmm.
Great, Hilary. And they started me off, and they were fabulous. Stephanie Birdsell and
Mm-hmm.
Kathy King. They were
Now,
just wonderful to me.
was this little alleyway in on Fay somehow within an art school per se?
No, the one of the women, oh gosh, my memory's not so good, but it was the back of a store on Fay. So it was
Mm-hmm.
in the alley. I don't know what's there now.
Mm-hmm.
But Stephanie was a pastel artist.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy had, I think Kathy had the store in the front, but they
Okay.
loved art and they were always running in with a new thing to teach somebody. And they were wonderful
Oh,
and talented.
so that's kind of, and then you kept on taking courses, and then decided to then to kind of jump
I
forward.
started at the I started at the Athenaeum. I got up my nerve to take my
Uh-huh.
first class watercolor at the Athenaeum, and I was terrified. I walked in and everybody had been painting for years, and I'm like,
Oh
oh
my
my
gosh.
gosh.
Well,
First
watercolor
two
itself.
paintings, first two
Uh-huh.
paintings I did in watercolor, the teacher said, frame those.
Wow.
So that kind of gave me confidence. Yeah, kind of.
Because
It really did.
I mean, it seems like all along you kind of dabbled a little bit here and there, and but there was always like a person there kind of validating that you should continue, right? But it seems like you were kind of
Oh, I don't know.
a little. I
I
mean,
don't
you
know.
like there was that when you were in kind or when you were young, you won that first place, and then someone suggested that you take a class. So here and here, and then.
And
Mhm,
I have to say, in retrospect, that my father was always pushing. He
mhm,
would say, I have a whole bunch of lemons that we
mhm.
could give people for Christmas. Can you figure out a packaging that will work? And so at a young age, I'd get out glitter and glue and do all sorts of things. And then he said I could paint my own room when I was 12.
Mhm.
Gold, gilded stars on the ceiling.
Oh, I was
It
gonna
was
ask.
wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, I bet. Did you use
So
a
he was
stencil?
very encouraging. What?
Did you use a stencil or did you
No,
freehand
no.
paint?
Freehand.
Oh,
Freehand. It was
wow.
probably really ugly.
Well, it was a little bit of a Sistine Chapel moment there.
Thank you
A little.
very much, Danielle. I knew I liked you. It was great.
Oh my God. And now, so now I know you're still painting. I mean, you typically paint now at your studio, right? Are you going at all right now to
Right.
your studio kind of with all
No,
of the
I
precautions?
really am not.
Okay.
I early on I took a clue to this
Mm-hmm.
virus,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not young and my husband's not any younger either. And it
Mm-hmm.
just seemed like there was no way to get around this. It's not
Mm-hmm.
that I don't trust others, but I have
Yeah.
trouble even keeping track of myself. So,
So let's play it
well, it's
safe.
true. Yeah,
Oh
I
my
go
gosh.
outside to get the newspaper and I grab it and then I go, oh my gosh, are
I
there
know.
droplets on this?
I know. I know. Yeah, it's kind of like and for me, like the anxiety of everything kind of creeps up in those kind of small, everyday, kind of mundane activities. And I'm like, go wash your hands, go run. So are you painting then at home? Because I see behind you a lot of some work. I think I might even recognize something that might be hanging from the ceiling. Are you working from home?
I am. That from the ceiling is one of my chandeliers that I do for the Athenaeum Gala every year. And
Which I wanted to
you
talk
know,
to you. Uh, go ahead, go ahead,
well,
go ahead.
when you work on one of their galas,
Mm-hmm.
and Erica, if you're watching, I'm really sorry for you to hear this, but
Uh-oh.
it's like a free art class.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. I
it's
mean,
just wonderful.
that's how I met you. I remember it was a few years ago. It was in the summer, and you were working on this beautiful, whimsical sculpture that was made out of like recycle. I think it was like plastic bottles, and you were taking Sharpies and you were coloring them and cutting and melting them and really
Hmm.
like making all these material kind of upcycling into a new life. And So that's how I met you, as a kind of as an artist in the studio sculpting this beautiful chandelier that just kind of kept on growing and growing, and you would kind of come
I did.
in and I would ask you like, oh, do you know, do you have in mind what it's gonna look like? And you were like, no, I'm just gonna let like the materials kind of speak to me and then take it from there. So it seemed really kind of like your process was really organic, really kind of in response to what you had at your disposal in many ways.
Well, there might be an idea
Mm-hmm.
like the
Mm-hmm.
way you'd like your Christmas tree to look, but
Mm-hmm.
as you go along, something presents itself. And many times what presented itself was Sybil saying,
I
"Why
know.
don't you?" Yeah.
I know. I know. Having civil around is definitely, yeah.
It's a big help, let me
It's
tell
a
you.
big help, and it's a constant source of like inspiration too.
Yes. And more than that, it's the encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Mm-hmm.
belief that I can do it, you
Oh.
know?
And
But go on.
no, sorry, interrupting. Do you typically do one of these chandeliers, or every year? How did you kind of come associated with the Athenaeum beyond the classes, or you started with the classes, or were you already kind of
And then
someone that
and
did it?
then I joined the gala committee.
Mm-hmm.
And that first year or the second year, Melissa and Sybil and I don't even remember what gala it was. We were just fooling around. And Sybil brought in some, I think it was eucalyptus,
Mm. I can see
just
that.
a great shape and hard wood.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, this is it. I know what. And I took 3 of those pieces and I sprayed them orange and I just
Mm.
covered them with lights, but hung them from the ceiling in the entry so that it was like a real gala. And
No, yeah. Go
from
ahead.
then it was covering umbrellas that had lost their cover
Mm.
or something. I don't know. I don't know. It just happened. And then I felt like this was my contribution.
Oh, it's a beautiful contribution. I mean, they're always spectacular, and it's always a lot of fun because they're also functional. They there's a beautiful
Sometimes.
sculpture. It still works, and they're typically also they go to a very good cost, right? I mean, not only are they part of the theme decoration of the gala, but they are also auctioned off, right? Is that correct? So it's
except for this last one that came home with me because I thought it would be my very last. But
oh.
I have told Danny Sue, who's chairman this year, if there is one, I'll have
Mm-hmm.
a chandelier for her.
Oh,
God
okay.
willing.
And yes, God willing. And that is what it's right behind you, right? I mean, I can kind of see it hanging.
Well,
Is
let
that
me see. Let me see if I can.
yeah, there we go.
I don't know how to do this. Here
No,
we
that's
go.
fine.
There.
Yeah, you can see it definitely.
And that's actually behind it. You can hardly see, but this is kind of fun. Is a piece of that very first one that was the eucalyptus that I painted orange. And this
Oh.
wonderful man bought them,
Mm-hmm.
got them in his store, and 2 of them evidently had termites,
Oh,
the
that's funny.
branches. And he kept
They're
saying,
alive.
Hilary, this stuff. So we got rid of 2 of them. And when he closed his store, he gave me this back, which has been recycled many times
Mm-hmm.
with bottles and whatevers.
Oh, so they were kind of do you know if they still have termites? Because this is risky
No termites.
behavior.
No termites. That doesn't go in our house too well.
But that's why I can see the wooden beams above you. I was like, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute.
No, that's my ceiling.
Oh,
And
that's
the paintings behind me are what I use for curtains because I can see right into the condo behind us.
nice. And
So I put, yeah.
no, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
So I just put a bunch of paintings together that were a series and
Hmm.
hung them over the windows. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Very nice. So, are you then you're at home in your living room
Mm-hmm.
slash studio because,
Mm-hmm.
and those are your works, right? On the back
Behind us. Yeah. Yeah.
behind
Yeah.
you. Nice, nice. So as what did you? I know that you were working on several paintings leading up to the exhibition that has been postponed. Can you talk a little bit maybe about your process? Do you typically work from like something that you find inspiring, or do you have already kind of like something in mind? I mean, how does that? Do you work in the morning? Do you work in the evening? Do you work on 15 paintings or one at a time? What is your process like? What
It,
do you like to,
it,
how do you vibe?
I don't, I don't think it's ever the same. It's about intuition and inspiration. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Nice.
I'm not inspired at all. And
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of been the case for a while. But my
Mm-hmm.
daughter, who I think is really sort of talented and self-taught in painting,
Mm-hmm.
challenged me to a painting a day kind of thing that we started doing back and forth to each other. And
Nice.
yeah, so that gets you kind of going. Also, I carry ideas in my head for a long time. And
Mm.
I don't know that it's true, but I swear to you, I think that if you paint in your head,
Mm-hmm.
if you practice certain strokes and certain little, when you go to do it, it just happens. I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to my painting. I have to be away from it. I mean, it has to be like, oh my God, I've got 10 minutes before this is due. What,
Oh,
done.
really? You like to
Yeah.
kind of work under pressure type thing?
It's not that I like it,
Uh-huh.
it's that I can start a year in advance, but
Mm-hmm.
it never feels finished until it gets that last, oh, what the, let's just do this.
Yeah, like kind of like, okay, let's just get it done. Let me not kind of like swim in all my options. Let's just move it forward. Move it forward. Very nice. And I know
Exactly.
I can see that you gravitate towards color and texture from what I'm seeing kind of on my end over here. Do you
I
typically? Uh-huh.
started, I started with acrylics
Mm-hmm.
and, but having been in the clothing business, cotton
Mm-hmm.
and silk are
Uh-huh.
my favorite fabrics. And to me,
Nice.
um, silk is like oil,
Uh-huh.
and so is cotton, but acrylic is a little polyester. Although I have to confess that sometimes I can't remember what painting I did. I look at it and go, is that oil or is that acrylic? Oh,
Funny.
I didn't write that on the back. Oops.
Oh, that's funny. I like this that you kind of go back to this like to like textiles, right? To make this like
Mm-hmm.
analogies about
Mm-hmm.
your painting and you were
Mm-hmm.
saying, your mom having kind of a clothing store and exposing you early on to different textiles. I know, that some of them were also brought from Mexico and you have some ties back to Mexico from a few generations back as well, right? I mean, aside from living, I think anyone that
Exactly.
lives along the border, has to have some sort of connection, or it doesn't have to have, but more than likely does have a connection back to Mexico.
Well, if they don't have a connection to the lifestyle, then they haven't been alive because I grew up right on the border, and if you didn't speak Spanish, you didn't get along very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Everybody
definitely a
spoke Spanish.
yeah, it's definitely a very unique area of the country in Spanish. Yeah, for sure. I know that sometimes we kind of joke back and forth in Spanish. We won't do it here just so we can be nice to everyone and they don't think that we're,
Thank you very much.
kind of doing some naughty stuff. Um, but so you were talking about your process, also kind of using you gravitate for certain kind of materials. Do you typically work on several paintings at the same time, or you were saying, or maybe just
I
one?
can't, I can't, I can, but sometimes starting on one inspires the next one. The other
Mm,
thing that I've done a lot is change from small to large. I mean,
ah,
I have some 5x5s in the
mm-hmm,
basement here,
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I have to stretch and move, and other times it just depends.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
depends what.
life, like right now, it's difficult.
Yeah.
So
Are you
am
painting
I,
now in this kind of
you know,
self
I'm
quarantine?
trying, and I'll tell you something. They look awful. They
Oh, you're
really
gonna.
do, I think. But every day I look and say, how am I going to recoup this? There's
Mm-hmm.
not been a medium. There's not a medium that I don't want to try.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, well, there is. I don't know that I would want to be uh, a sculptor in stone. That
Okay.
doesn't appeal to me. I'm
Okay.
too accident prone. Uh,
You're like, there's certain things that could put me kind of in a dangerous situation. Let's avoid them altogether. Oh, that's funny.
exactly, exactly.
Oh. And I was also thinking about some of kind of the themes of in your paintings. I know I've seen a lot of still lifes, a lot of flowers, a lot of kind of these like home interiors that you gravitate towards in your paintings. A lot of kind of uh, big colorful paintings that have fruit from your gardens. I know that kind of family and memory and home are big topics, right, in your work.
hmm hmm they really are, because I truly believe that the stability of our life comes,
Mm-hmm.
and my house is pretty jumbled in terms of it's got everything in it, but it's my husband and I have every single little piece of paper that our children painted or touched.
Oh.
Well, no, that's not so.
Well,
At
I'm
our age,
collecting
it
them,
should all be
but
out the door. It all those memories
hmm
are a part of us. And I
hmm
think that we lose history so quickly in our lives.
hmm
But to be able to say, you know what, that was my mother's, and she got that when she was a child, and here's the story. It pulls it all back together
hmm
for me.
hmm
Um, and in terms of color, I can't live without color. I
Okay.
have, um, I have, how do I put this? I can think very darkly,
hmm
and to me, to look at the color in the world brings out the light.
Uh,
So,
you have a real emotional response to color.
yeah. Oh, yes. Oh,
Hmm
yes.
hmm
Maybe too much. Maybe too
hmm
much.
Oh. Um, but I think.
I try to paint pastel sometimes,
hmm
and I can't do it. I cannot do it. Seriously.
What is it about it that you just?
Well, I start fooling with the colors, and the next thing I know, they're bright.
Yeah, yeah. I can see you. Yeah, there's here like a lot of like kind of like lime green on the back and some turquoise. Do you have any of your other kind of paintings around? I mean, I know that you're in you're at home, and I think most of the paintings that we're going to be in the show are at your studio, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple here, but I might have to walk across. I don't know. What do you want me?
Well, I think, I mean, if you don't mind, I know it kind of puts you in a. Do you feel comfortable? You want to show us, if you can?
I can try. I know that when
Okay,
you
let's
walk
try it.
with the camera forward,
Okay, you're pretty savvy at this. I think we'll be
are
able
you
to.
kidding me?
No.
Truth in telling, Daniela ran me through a free trial here. But okay, here we go. Let me try this.
Okay, there we
Okay,
go.
there's the outside. Okay,
Uh huh. Yes. There we
how's
go.
that?
Great.
Okay, and this has all been inspired by the what's his name? The canvas maker who's next door to my studio.
Mm.
He and his employee Marty
Mm-hmm.
are artists in their own also. Here we go. Wait a minute, where do you want me to go next? Or
No,
can I
this is
sit
great.
down?
Just kind of showing us. I think it's always interesting and neat to see everyone's studio, and I just wanted, or your at-home studio, but your paintings what I wanted to see. Where is your? Oh,
These
there
are
we
my
go. Nice.
masks.
So
Now
you're.
let me point out that the middle mask is fabric from my grandfather's house, and it's like 80 years old, but it
What?
washed in the machine like you wouldn't believe. This
Wow.
is this is fabric from a friend who passed a little time
Oh.
ago, and my daughter made this one.
Oh wow. This is
So let
great.
me see.
You're.
I
This.
changed I changed the covers in my chair.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, now what else?
Yeah. This is all your artwork, right? It looks
Right.
great.
Can I sit down now?
Yes. Yes. There.
Oh, that
There we go.
last that last little thing you saw is my ironing board
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
that when closed holds the pictures of my grandchildren. That's
Oh,
because everything they always need ironing out. Okay.
there we go. Thank you, Hilary. That was great.
Um, oh, that wasn't so great.
A little excitement. It's fine. It's fine.
I bought these little tripods for my granddaughters so that they could start on YouTube. So
Mm-hmm.
then I got one for myself, but I'm not too good yet.
Oh, there were. I
And
know
my
that
daughter
you're.
has started making, yeah, go on.
No, sorry. I was gonna say. I know that you cultivated this kind of love for art in your family and your kids, and your daughter has also a YouTube page where she does art lessons, and even your granddaughter. Is that right? She started as well. I mean, this is kind of like several generations already of artists.
I think my granddaughter Liney started before her mother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she gave her own little video that she put together on making ghosts for Halloween Go, that say boo. And
Uh-huh.
now she's doing, you just saw one that she did, didn't you? What was it? Oh,
It was,
potato
uh-huh.
prints.
Yeah, potato. And she was like a real natural. She was just like, well, here we go, like nothing. She was also like
Exactly.
8 years old or something like that, very young.
She's pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me her age. They're
Like,
all a
well,
jumble in my head, but
yeah,
she's
no,
she's
I can
always
do it.
been savvy.
Mm-hmm.
Always. And
Mm-hmm.
has been painting since she was 4 or 5. Her mother put an easel in the backyard in Seattle. And I have a
Oh,
picture of her nude in dark glasses painting at the easel.
oh, how cool. And oh, here she is. I think that she's 12. Michaela says
12.
she's 12.
See,
I'm.
to me, she's always 9. That's why I didn't
Oh,
want to say her age. Sorry,
oh.
Liney. And my
Um,
daughter is doing fabulous things for kids also. So I'm very proud of them. Anybody listening, can I give her a plug?
of course.
Her Instagram is goldfishandgluesticks.com. Well, not .com. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
goldstick. And
Go
if I did that wrong, sorry.
close enough. We'll get the right information. We'll put it on the link after the video, so not to worry. I wanted to go back a little bit to that. We don't have to walk over there, but if you can tell us about that fabric, you said it was your grandfather's, the one that you one
Yeah,
of the.
that my grandfather's home that my mother grew up in Yuma is a museum now. But
Mm-hmm.
when I was little, after he passed, my uncle and aunt moved in there and
Uh-huh.
they redid the house. And one room was all that fabric.
Was it wallpaper, like like to cover the walls,
No,
or?
the whole room, everything was covered in fabric. And there
Wow.
was some of it left that sat on the shelf at my mother's for years. And now I've got a little behind my bed and I got a little piece here. And And it mixes in with new stuff, but it's timeless.
Yeah. I mean, from the tour that you gave us right now of your living room slash, COVID studio, it really seems like a cabinet of curiosities with a lot of like probably new stuff, all some like little trinkets and statues and some things that were maybe from your mother's store, I don't know, or things that you've collected definitely, along the way. I think it's so neat to have a studio or a working space where you have all those kind of triggers, right? For like memories for your loved
Absolutely.
ones.
Absolutely.
So you're,
That also is helpful when you have a studio. I share my studio in Balboa with three other women,
mm-hmm,
and each of us is very, very different
mm-hmm,
in our work.
mm-hmm.
But I get ideas just seeing what they're doing.
Yeah, of course, of course. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, yeah.
I feel like artists are always borrowing, right? You're always going to borrow techniques or from other artists. You're always going to be influenced by other people. Are you in particularly influenced by certain artists that you really, really like, or does it kind of?
Well, clearly, Matisse.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
There are some current ones
mm-hmm,
that I'm wild for, but I have almost no short-term memory, so I
mm-hmm.
can't tell you their
That's
names.
fine. I know. I was hesitant to ask you that because I know, speaking from my experience, when they ask me like, tell me one, I'm always like, let me remember. Let me remember
I
who. But yeah,
I
I
will
just.
say that the uh, Museum of Art, what is it, MoMA,
Mm-hmm.
offers courses through some company, and they're free.
I know.
Tell
Which one?
Giving you techniques of other artists like de Kooning and
Mm-hmm.
what's her name, Usama, the wonderful Japanese lady that
Mm-hmm.
loves polka dots, and
Uh-huh.
he gives demonstrations in how they painted, and
Mm-hmm.
I find that sometimes I will watch one of those for a minute and then try to apply some of that in my work and see how I can make it mine. I
Mm-hmm.
love it. They give you
That's fun.
permission to do things that you would never have thought of, ever.
Oh. That's pretty neat. I mean, I've taken some. I just discovered this site that you're talking about, Coursera, and I took a couple. I've taken one course through MoMA, which was kind of an art education course, and I'm now taking another one that's more around the psychology behind happiness. So it's all about like what you think might make you happy is not necessarily going to make you happy. But I'm in the first module. But yeah, this is a wonderful site um, to learn things, and more so now that we are all kind of learning through online for the most part. I mean, even the Athenaeum that traditionally has face-to-face classes, now we have a whole selection of online courses. So it's really wonderful to be able to access these um, little depositories of knowledge and technique at your leisures. Are you constantly kind of taking courses still? I know you kind of continue to
I
take
I
courses at
haven't
the Athenaeum, or
I
haven't?
haven't in the last year, but
Okay.
I am going to return shortly
Mm-hmm.
because I think that the camaraderie and the exposure to others
Yeah.
spears you forward,
Mm-hmm. I agree.
uh, and gives you the courage and the chutzpah, or what
Uh-huh.
was that right, Sybil? To do what you might not even have thought of doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
And speaking of, what's kind of coming your way? I mean, do you have a certain kind of project that I mean, and you mentioned that right now it's not particularly kind of a moment where of major work or energy or inspiration, but are you planning or you have anything in mind that you're wanting to explore with your work or paintings in this kind of coming
Well,
months
I
or in the
have been
summer?
a little bit. I have been through the years experimenting with making silk screens,
Ah.
mostly drawing on them, but sometimes being a little bit more professional about it.
Mm-hmm.
And because the canvas maker next door to me, Giant Canvas,
Mm-hmm.
because they explore with wood so much, uh, I can walk through his place and find lots of interesting things to do.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody laughs at me because in this room that we're sitting, I have, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 places to sit down.
Oh, that's too funny.
That includes couches. 19, 20, sorry. So
I saw you look
chairs,
up.
obviously. I know I look across the room.
Oh, I
So
thought maybe there was some swing, so you were planning on.
no, so so I've been doing a few little drawings of chairs,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm working on putting these chairs, the silk screens, on wood, and then when you do a silk screen and
Mm-hmm.
and then you paint with oils, trying to get the two to come together frequently looks like a total disconnect.
Okay.
And so I'm just working and working that way. And I
Mm-hmm.
also have the next thing is the chandelier for the Athenaeum.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, Granted, maybe we won't have the gala, but maybe we will. And if we don't, I'll
Mm-hmm.
have a chandelier. And
Mm-hmm.
this year they're going to Portugal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's going to be blue and white and organic. We'll see.
Nice. All right. That's
That
amazing.
might
I
not
mean,
end up like that at all.
yeah, but like you
I'm
were
sorry.
saying, you kind of have a little bit of an inclination, but then you just kind of really dive in and let kind of the moment and be creative with what you have, right? I mean, you have kind of like a little bit of a guide, but really it's kind of what comes to you while you're working on it, right? Not so
Exactly. Exactly.
structured in very tightly. Oh, very
You
nice.
know, they're always saying that if you have a part of your painting that you really like and you don't like the rest of it, get rid of the part that you really like.
Oh,
And
really?
I can't do that. I can't.
Oh, that's.
But I can start reshaping it so
Mm-hmm.
eventually I get rid of the whole thing. But that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what it's like. If you go into something with a definite thing in your mind,
Yeah.
I disappoint myself. I have to be willing to take chances and risk.
I mean, it goes back to kind of like that, those sayings and that philosophy that really like it's the path, right? That matters, not necessarily like the final destination. Happiness is not a destination, but it's kind of an ongoing path towards it, right? This kind
It's
of
the
idea.
it's the
Mm-hmm.
progress, not the
Mm-hmm.
perfection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least for me. I don't happen to believe in happiness. I mean,
Ah.
I think we
Mm-hmm.
strive for this word called happy, happy, and it doesn't mean a lot to me. It sets me up for disappointment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
I mean.
if something comes along that pleases me, I can feel happy. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's something that we like have a right to, or it's something that I don't know. I'm kind of making this up on the spur. So
No, but I think I know what you're saying. If I understand it correctly, it's kind of more about, like you're saying, this awareness of things that make you happy versus kind of this constant pursuit for happiness for the sake of happiness, where you might kind of miss,
exactly.
right? What is truly kind of something that's filling you up on the inside.
Well, right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in a marriage. If my marriage isn't happy right now, does that mean I need to walk away? Uh-uh.
Mm-hmm. And I was
What are
thinking.
my options to change that?
Hmm. Exactly. I was right now that you were mentioning this, I was thinking about you in the part of your career path as a marriage therapist, right? And how this probably this concept of happiness probably kept on, it's something that you probably help guide people or couples into understanding with, kind of like the longevity of the relationship and how it can have kind of ups and downs. Just probably like we're saying, like an artwork and the creation, you can kind of hit like maybe like a wrong turn and then you kind of rework it, and it has this kind of organic way that it's evolving, and not everything is a step towards that kind of preconceived notion of what you want it to be, the end product, perhaps.
Daniela, Daniela, you have just described the path to a
Yay!
successful marriage.
Whew,
Yeah, exactly.
whew. What is this COVID?
Winding this way, winding that, you know.
Is this self-isolation? You gotta make it work with, whoever's underneath that same roof with you. You gotta make it work. Um, I know we have a few more minutes before we wrapped up, but I wanted to maybe just kind of touch upon what is your favorite part of the process in general, or as you as a painting. We're talking right now of maybe kind of discovering these ways and challenges. Do you really enjoy that part? Do you typically like kind of the challenge of trying a new technique or maybe a mixed media? Is there anything in particular that you really, really enjoy in the process of making art?
I think it's in the process itself.
Mm-hmm.
I read I read in this book once that a nun praying
Mm-hmm.
and a violinist playing
Mm-hmm.
and an artist painting is all the same as meditation. It takes you to another level.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
for me, when I'm working, it's reaching that level and losing everything around me and going into that space
Mm-hmm.
where it becomes prayer.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's it
I
for me.
Yeah. I mean, you're someone that really spends a lot of time also with your family and friends, right? I mean, your house seems like it's the type of house where people gravitate towards, where you're the one, that it's like, come on over to grandma's house or coming over to my house. I mean, it seems like you're pretty
Not
ready
true.
to.
Not true.
No, because it seems like it's such a space for like meant for entertaining. Like such a
Well,
fun
it
place
used to
to.
be, but the family's too big for that now. And
I can see how it could get kind of crowded easily.
oh, please, can get very. This is just a small space,
Hmm. But I
but
was thinking,
there was a time that it was that way.
oh, because I was thinking in relation of that kind of. I feel like sometimes too when someone is not for everyone. I don't need to generalize, but when you have, if you're someone that's really surrounded by a lot of people and very, very social in a way, that it's also kind of very nice to have like an art practice that, like you were saying, it's kind of meditative, right? It kind of takes you into a place where it's really kind of you, you're kind of going inward and at the same time kind of expressing out something right on the canvas that is allowing you to maybe process a lot of things, challenging you, but just giving
Exactly.
you a little respite from everyone else, right? Kind of like nurturing you, kind of filling your cup a bit as well.
Can you write that down? It sounded great.
Well, we're recording this. We'll backtrack to it. Hilary, so just we have, like I was mentioning, just a few more moments. Is there anything else that maybe you would want to tell us about you or talk about before we say goodbye in a couple minutes? Maybe something you want to show us.
Oh my gosh, you caught me off guard here. I was just so delighted that my dog didn't come running in this
Oh,
morning.
I had to shut the kids out a
Um,
couple times over here on the side.
well, I think my husband has been guarding in the back room so that he doesn't come in.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
we
and
have
and go on. I know you
everyone's
have a new
forewarned.
dog.
Yes, we do. Yeah, which I don't know where she's at. So hopefully she naps during the day and then gets this like second wind around 6 p.m. So she's probably napping around here. But yeah, I think, for being our first Instagram live as a host, I forewarned everyone in the house that they had to be quiet as a mouse, for this time period. I'm like, please don't disrupt. We'll get to that in the future when I have this a little bit more dialed in. Um, well, then I wanted,
Listen, I think you're very dialed in. I think that
oh,
everybody ought to know how organized you were with
oh,
the pre-testing and the telling me what to push, although I forgot what
oh,
you told me to push. Um, I think you've done a
no.
wonderful job, Daniela. You're a
Oh,
talented
you're too
lady.
sweet. Oh, thank you. You're too sweet. And well, I'm very well. Likewise, I'm a admirer of yours, and I thank you for joining me on this journey and taking kind of like I was saying, the kind of jump to do this. And we hopefully, I think that once we go back to our kind of new normal, we're going to have the possibility to exhibit your work. So we will be letting people know when that's come about. Maybe, I don't know, fall, hopefully, if that
To it.
works. Um, for you. Yeah. So thank you so much, Hilary. Enjoy the rest of the day. I can't say enough how much I appreciate you taking the time to hold my hand as we chat here on Instagram Live, and to share with us a bit about your personal life and your practice and your space. Thank you so much, Hilary.
Well, thank you very much. I feel like we jumped off a cliff today and we landed
Yeah.
well.
Whew. Here we go. All right.
I know, I know.
Thank you, everyone. Just a little reminder that the conversation will be on Instagram TV for the next 24 hours. And after that, we look forward to uploading this to the Athenaeum Music and Arts Library YouTube channel. So check that out as well. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Hilary. A big kiss, and have a wonderful weekend.
Besitos, besitos.
Besitos. Hasta luego. Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you, Daniela.
Thank you. Bye.
Wait.